Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda. Last week, I shared in a couple of our Take 5s about events in the city of Athens, and shared how our pastoral team at Solid Rock had been at a leadership summit in Athens and was just returning home. But we left some of our members behind to continue in an evangelistic program in Athens, and some of them are actually flying home today. Now, it's funny, that we've got people sharing the gospel in Athens, nearly 2,000 years after the Apostle Paul shared the gospel in Athens. But also, when you consider that it was only at the beginning of the 20th century that people were actually rioting in the streets over the gospel in what were called the gospel riots. Now, this all came about because leading up to the 20th century, there was a big push, particularly by people in the Orthodox Church, to try to make ancient Greek the language that people should speak in the Greek nation. Now, ancient Greek, of course, was the Greek of Socrates, the Greek of Aristotle, the Greek of the great philosophers of thousands of years ago. So why would they want them to talk that? Well, they just felt that modern Greek had been too much corrupted by outside influences, and they wanted to get back to the pure ancient Greek because, languages evolve. If you would read even in English, for example, the Canterbury Tales, which are only from a few hundred years ago, very hard to read because English has changed so much. That's why we need modern Bible translations, because people sometimes struggle with the old King James Version of the Bible. Well, the Greeks were having this same thing. Some people wanted to speak the classical Greek of thousands of years ago, but modern Greek had developed, and that's what most people wanted to speak. Now, what about translating the Bible from ancient Greek into modern Greek? Actually, the Bible wasn't even written in the classical Greek. The Bible, the New Testament, was written in Koine Greek, which was the Greek of the marketplace. But nevertheless, the Orthodox Church had banned translations into modern Greek. They actually were said about evangelicals who were translating the Bible into a language that was more readily understood by Greek people. And they actually passed rules within the church demanding that any translations undertaken by enemies of our faith, that's talking about born-again Christians to you and me, that these translations should be confiscated and destroyed. But Queen Olga, who was the Queen of Greece, she was visiting wounded soldiers in hospital. And in order to comfort those soldiers, she tried reading the Bible to them and discovered that they couldn't even understand what she was reading because it was the wrong kind of Greek. It wasn't what they spoke. And so she sponsored the translation of the Bible into modern Greek. And that's where politics came into it, because people's prejudice against evangelicals and also people that were against having a royal family and a queen, they sort of joined forces. And just as whenever people are angry and annoyed at things, different groups come together, that's what they did. And they opposed this translation of the New Testament into a modern Greek language. And there was a newspaper called the Acropolis newspaper, and that newspaper began serializing the Gospel of Matthew, just starting with Matthew chapter 1 and publishing it day by day, more of the Gospel in the modern Greek language. And people went out, instigated by Orthodox priests, and they rioted on the streets, and 8 people were killed. And as a result of that, the Orthodox Church used its influence to get modern translations banned, and even people who were teaching Greek had to be removed from teaching in universities. Now, of course, they couldn't stop this because, this was the language that the people were speaking. And so today in Athens, you can read the Bible in modern Greek, and people speak modern Greek, and nobody would dream of trying to speak the ancient Greek of the Greek philosophers of thousands of years ago. And the reason is because the Bible is not meant to be read in some special holy language. The Bible is meant to be read in the language of the street. Even back in the time of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Gospels, the book of Acts, Paul's letters, they were not written in the classical Greek of the philosophers. They were written in the everyday Koine Greek, the Greek that people spoke in the marketplace. And the reason is this, that the church may have been trying to keep the gospel just for use in church buildings and under their control. But the gospel is for everybody, and the gospel is for every occasion. And it took the Greek nation a while to get there, but they have the gospel in their own language today, and I'm delighted that we have the freedom now to preach the gospel in Greece, as in many other places. Don't forget to pray for Greece today and pray for the Greek people, for a harvest of people to come to faith in Christ. May God bless you today. Join us again tomorrow for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.